I was preparing a retreat for my leadership team at my church. I did an online search. I said, okay, Lord, we all need rest right now. My entire team, they need rest. Rest Ministries is very different from any other retreat that I've been on in the fact that it allows you the privacy and the time that you need to hear whatever it is you need to hear from the Lord. You're isolated, but you still yet have people to love on you and to speak life into you. Every other retreat has been more so geared towards being surrounded with other women, you know, fellowshipping and that kind of thing. This retreat was merely about coming back to the foundation, coming back to the root and hearing from God, where it's just you and Him, time to hear from Him, time to allow Him to check your spirit and to just allow a time of refreshing. The first time I visited Rest Ministries, I actually brought my children with me. And as we turned off the main road and we entered the private drive, my son is 12 and he had his headphones on in the back seat. And he pulls his headphones off and he goes, "Ooh, Mom, do you feel that? It just feels so peaceful. It just feels so good." And my daughter's sitting in the front seat and she says, "That's the presence of the Lord." She was like it's getting bigger and bigger as we get closer. And I just began to laugh because that was exactly how I felt. And as we drove up and once we peaked the last hill of the private drive and we saw the house, you know, not only is it beautiful, but the presence of the Lord is here.
I was a pastor in the United Methodist Church for more than 30 years. And at the time that I was scheduled for a sabbatical, I really didn't have a clue what I was going to do. God brought us together with Chuck and Becca. Chuck indicated that he helped people work through a sabbatical. For me, Rest Ministries was teaching the truth of the Word that I really, in 40 years as a Christian, had overlooked. I was loving Jesus and teaching Jesus, but the strength of the ministry was however much strength I had. And Sabbath rest is about renewing and revigorating in the Lord and letting the Lord work through you to perform the ministry. To spend that time with the Lord is not after we're exhausted. We take that time with the Lord before we begin so that we're on the right page, so that we're moving the right direction. It really has revolutionized my life, and it changed those last few years of my pastoral ministry. And the time since then has been absolutely phenomenal. I preach more now than I ever did when I was pastor of a local church. It's been just phenomenal, the amount of work that I'm able to do now because I learned those rhythms of rest. I'd have never discovered that without Chuck and Becca's ministry. I believe that with all my heart. I would love to be able to take what I have learned as a result of Rest Ministries and what they taught me about Sabbath rest and go back to the beginning of my ministry and have like 30 years and see what God might be able to do with that level of energy above and beyond what He did just in my strength and my energy.
I would say Rest Ministries is just what the name says, rest, a place to come and get away from everything, to contemplate. For me, it was a time to be alone with the Lord, just He and I in a very dark period of my life. My husband is pastor and just learned some devastating news about my marriage and was not sure if my husband and I would stay together. So it was actually my children that said, "Mom, you need to get away, just go away somewhere." And I thought, you know, they're right. I can't, business as usual can't go on right now. I know it was the Lord that said Shepherd's Gate. I heard that in my mind and I thought, that'd be perfect. When I came here, I needed to hear from the Lord. I honestly just didn't know what my next step was going to be. This is quiet. It's a peaceful setting, so it's beautiful, the trees, the paths. I made use of all that. And the nice thing was the staff was here if I needed them to pray with me, but they weren't overbearing. And when I didn't feel like talking to anybody, I didn't have to, so that was important too, just to have the time I needed to be alone and think and pray. During that time, the Lord did an amazing work in my heart, and when I left here, 8 days later, I knew what I was going to do. You know, the Lord had told me very clearly, stay in the marriage. You know, you have made this vow to me, you've made this promise, your husband is broken, I'm working in his heart. And when I left, I was very certain and very sure that I'd heard from the Lord and I knew what to do. It was here at Shepherd's Gate that he came through in such a big way, and I continued to feel that at home in the days and weeks and months after leaving here. I would say now my marriage is awesome. I have the marriage that I always wanted to have, a godly marriage with a godly husband who puts the Lord first. We begin each day in Bible reading together and prayer together to start our day. And my marriage is a miracle. It's a story of restoration. And for me, that all began here at the Shepherd's Gate during the darkest period of my life. But it's here that I heard the Lord say, stay in your marriage, and I'm going to help you through this.
Call upon your name. Keep my eyes above the waves. My soul